Well, thank you for talking with me. I'm excited.
It's rolling?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're in.
Hi.
Yeah, dude. So, this is Stacey, a wonderful human being who I met at Contact Improv, and I will not forget. When we first met, I don't have these a lot, but like every now and then you meet somebody and you instantly know right away. You're like, oh, I can vibe with this motherfucker.
It felt that way really quickly.
Yeah, I did too.
Just like, you were just like puppy open.
Yeah.
Just
Ooh.
super enthusiastic and friendly and, like literally vibrating. It was just, hi.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to.
And that was a cool space to meet in too. Like, I feel like it'd be hard to meet in a space in which you're gonna practice contact improv, and not like somebody. Like, I feel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's just a very open environment, at least for me.
Yeah, it was.
So.
But we never had each other as a partner during
No,
the
we
whole
never
thing.
did touch.
Isn't that interesting?
I mean, besides hug, I think we did an intro hug.
Yep. Yeah. It
Which
was
I
kind
always
of like,
appreciate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did an intro hug.
Have you? I was just talking earlier to my homeboy Steve and Anna about introducing people, or like the conventional like way to meet somebody is shake their hand.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I moved to Asheville that I was
Oh.
introduced to hugging somebody like upon your first meeting. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. This feels very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Like my dad taught me that.
Yeah.
Firm handshake.
Business, yeah.
Eye contact.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like, that totally has value. I mean,
In a context.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I still, just with some people that I don't get the hug vibe from, I'll shake the hand.
Yeah.
Right? I want to do something for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you have any experience with the hand? Like, was that new to you when you moved here or not?
I don't remember it being new when I moved here. I've always been really touchy. Like so much so that I have to dial it in sometimes. And I've actually taught myself to ask people how they are with touch.
Right.
Because not everyone's open, but yeah.
Yeah, that's smart.
But maybe it is more that way here because there's a lot of peace and love happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking peace and love happening here. Fuck yeah. And I like it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is good.
Something else I thought of something else in that note. Of like touch being mega, like, for me anyways, I've realized how important it is in the past several months. Being in Nashville specifically, like, really opened me up to like, oh, I really appreciate, even if it's just like a hand on the knee for a split second, that's that's a little fucking sprinkle of connection, dude.
It's so important.
Yeah.
You've heard those stories about babies in foster care or in orphanages who aren't touched in the first year? They're maladapted their whole life. It gets so very important to have. Think about if all goes well and you're a woman and you give birth, the first thing you need is your baby on your chest.
Yeah.
To synchronize
Right.
and to have that touch. So I think the lack of it they've seen with developmental studies is so detrimental to kids. And then it makes me think of the loneliness when people are feeling lonely and don't have that opportunity. It's really, we need it.
Right.
You know. And that being said, some of us are uncomfortable with touch for a variety of different reasons. But
Right.
yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because my dad, before he passed, I was having a hard time connecting with him with conversations. He was just kind of shutting down. And the last decision I made is I'm just going to hold his hand as much as possible as a way to connect. When
Dude.
all else fails, right? Yeah.
Fuck the words.
Yeah.
Just feel each other.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Hell yeah.
You look really cool with it.
Do I?
There's a whole bunch of yellow flowers behind Opie's head that you can't see on
Is it
camera,
good
but
color
it's a
on Opie?
Van Gogh. It's a good color. It matches
Fuck
your hair.
yeah. Nice. I like that. Hell yeah. So I want to ask you like some about your own mindfulness journey, like what got you into it and shit, right? So, and you asked me that earlier too. You said, what was the seed?
Yeah.
And I want to ask you that same question. Like, what was if there was an individual spark that you can remember that really kind of got you interested in like exploring your own mind?
Yeah. It was going to therapy and having a therapist who was also a mindfulness-based practitioner.
Oh, got you.
And so I was in group and individual therapy, but in group therapy, we'd always start out with a mindfulness practice.
How long ago was this?
20 years.
Word. Okay.
Probably. And he shared the neuroscience that was available then and how helpful it can be. And I fell asleep every single time. but I was living in a trauma existence, and it was just like we were invited to go in and close our eyes, and I think it was so uncomfortable that I would just peace out and go to sleep, right? But that was the introduction. That was the seed. And over the years that I was in therapy with him, dealing with anxiety, he would say, Stacey, you know, if you practice mindfulness, it will help with that. And I was like, I cannot do it on my own, Jim. I just can't. Got into yoga at the same time, and that was a little bit of movement and mindfulness. But not, fast forward, there was 20 years ago I was introduced. It was probably 15 years later when I started working with kids, and I noticed so much anxiety that I was like, I have got to treat the whole child. There's got to be something else. And I went to a workshop on mindfulness for kids. So I took a class, I took a course, and that course got me into my own practice, my own embodied practice. The idea being you can't teach something that you don't practice and embody for yourself.
Right.
So that was they had a really nice scope and sequence that led you through like just 1 minute at a time to begin with, which was really helpful. I needed just 60 seconds because it was too much to close my eyes and be quiet. But that got me up to, if I'm on, I'm doing 20 to 30 minutes a sit. And recently I've gone up to twice a day. I'm trying to be more grounded.
23 minutes a time?
20 to 30 minutes per sit. And I'm just trying to bookend my days with it. So
nice.
Yeah. And the science recently that's come out, continues to come out. There's so much science on it over the past 20 years. Like if you look at a graph of just the number, I'm looking at a graph, the sheer number of articles that have been published. It's like this crazy hockey stick formation.
I love that.
Yeah, because we started being able to look inside the brain in the 90s. They developed it.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the MRI?
Yeah.
Functional MRI.
Okay. And that's what you're saying, that's when things picked up?
That's when things picked up because they could say, oh, now we can look inside the brains of meditators and see what's going on.
Oh my God, yeah.
So that's when it started being like, ooh, and the Dalai Lama has been a big proponent of studying mindfulness. He's a big science nerd, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is fucking cool. Wow. There is, and this just reminds me how there's like, I've noticed a lot of overlap happening now between Buddhism and science, or just like,
Yeah.
specifically in the realm of like mindfulness, because it seems to me that like Buddhism is fucking known about it for much longer than science. Like science has, right?
Yeah.
Like science is catching up.
Yeah.
The Buddhists have been on this ship for literally like thousands of years.
It's pretty crazy.
Fuckers. And like, of course they were, bro. Like they had so much like little stimulation, I think, as a society, right? Like whereas now we have like the phones and everything. Like they had to like, or they almost, I don't want to say they had to, but I think it'd be so much easier to focus on like the quality of your mind than to start to learn about it.
And I think you did a Vipassana retreat as well.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember from the recording of Goenka, who was the teacher at my Vipassana, right? I think it was him that was saying, Buddha was a scientist. He was observing what was going on in his body. He looked at it from a scientific perspective. He was like, what are these sensations? Where are they coming from? How are they changing? And of course he was. That deep observation, right?
Oh my God, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah. I love that overlap. And now the science is catching up and being like, all these ancient practices,
Are
something
fucking
to them.
legit.
Yeah, they're legit.
Yeah, that is really neat. I'm grateful for that too. So like, you're reading that book right now by who again?
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Thich Nhat Hanh. Have you read any books about mindfulness that are more like that are by like people with a PhD or like by the more collegial?
Yep.
folk?
Let me think.
Real quick, can you actually move your mic
Yes.
to like right here? I think would be better because I don't know if that's gonna be scratching it and making a noise. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Richie Davidson.
A neuroscientist?
Richie Davidson.
You did
and
mention him, yeah.
John Kabat-Zinn. I'm bad with remembering like where they are, but John Kabat-Zinn is the guy that developed mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Which
is I don't even have the right years. Is teaching patients with chronic illness and pain how to use mindfulness to reduce their stress about their illness and pain.
Oh, okay.
So the idea, like the 2 arrows of suffering, Do we know the 2 areas of suffering?
No.
There's the pain. There's my back pain. There's this tumor in my back, and there's a lot of pain there. So that's one area of suffering. The next suffering is all of my anxiety that I bring to it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right? So here's the pain. The suffering is amplified because of my mind.
Yeah.
So John Kabat-Zinn and Richie Davidson spent time in India on some major Vipassana retreats, and they came back and they started embedding it into the medical model that we have.
Right on.
Which is pretty cool. And there's a book called Altered Traits, which is...
Ooh, that rings a bell.
Altered Traits.
Yeah.
It's a scientific review of, at least when it was written, what we know about mindfulness so far in meditation. Yeah. Using fMRI results. And looking inside the brains of crazy meditators, you know, lifelong meditators. And I think, I'm not good at remembering my name, so I don't want to misspeak, but...
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been like the, just out of curiosity, there's all these different resources to like learn about mindfulness, right? Like podcasts, reading, conversation, or like even you mentioned like your therapy classes were the initial seed. What for you, just in your own journey, has been like the most important, do you think, or at least the most that you've tapped into?
So I think it's called Mindful Schools.
It's a website?
It's a website. It's an organization. It's a nonprofit organization that teaches educators how to teach mindfulness. For me, that was the most impactful resource because it offered the course, the beginner's course that I could take. And it taught me how to teach mindfulness, which has been another really good resource to try to explain this process to children.
Okay.
Right?
Wow. Okay.
So if I explain it to kids, and I'm always adding hand signals because I think it's helpful, I'll say it like think of your attention as a flashlight. Right? And I always do this because I say I live in the woods and I wear a headlamp at night so I can see. So it's your flashlight. So mindfulness has got 4 parts to it. It's paying attention on purpose to the present moment with kindness. So I want kids to be able to say what this practice is. It's paying attention on purpose to the present moment with kindness. And then teaching kids mindfulness, there's a whole curriculum that I could follow. And that was really helpful. I had to learn how to teach kids, and then I went through a training, mindfulness-based emotional intelligence training for leaders, and I had to teach mindfulness to adults. So having to teach something, I think, has been...
Do you lose a magnet? Nice.
This is really thick.
There's a clip too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Sorry, I should have showed you that. There you go.
There we
Fuck
go.
Yeah.
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 Teaching, it's a really good resource. Anything you teach, you end up learning. And for a while, I was jamming on the Calm app. I thought the Calm app had some good stuff.
Yeah.
And some master classes as well, not just guided meditations. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, hell yeah.
What's been it for you?
The biggest resource has been the Waking Up app, I think, which is the Sam Harris's app.
I have to check it
Which
out.
I just renewed my subscription on, and I'm so stoked about. Yeah, the Sam Harris's app, Waking Up, has been the most fucking like resourceful thing around all things mindfulness. I mean, he's literally having conversations with. I don't know if like they're called monks. I don't really like. He's having fucking conversations with people like from all over the world who have been doing it for a minute.
Okay.
Whether it's from the actual like Buddhist cultures or whatever other cultures are practicing mindfulness, or whether it's the neuroscientists like himself, like Sam himself is a neuroscientist.
Sam is a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of?
Well, like what college?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'll figure it out because you're inspiring me to get that app.
Dude, it is so fucking cool. And if you want to get on a family plan, I'm in. It's a little bit cheaper.
Okay, great.
And, like,
Sorry.
dude,
Yeah.
But yeah, Waking Up has been incredible. I mean, I remember just a couple of years ago when I first, a little over a year ago when I first got it. It's when I was working at the shop still back home in Iowa. And so I was spraying cars for like, usually around maybe 4 hours a day. I was in a paint booth alone with my AirPods in, just fucking absorbing like information and trying to conceptualizing about mindfulness. And then like there's also a meditative aspect in and of that of itself where I was just noticing like I'm really enthusiastic about this. Look at all these thoughts that are just racing about trying to learn more about my thoughts.
I love imagining you, and you're saying you're spraying cars, like
Literally
you're
spraying
painting
them.
cars?
Yeah.
You're painting them.
Mhm.
So you're painting them, you've got this. That feels very Tai Chi to me. Very like
Oh,
movement
oh
meditation
my God,
range.
it so was. It was beautiful. It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah. But having an opportunity just to sink into that for hours at a time and get paid for it.
Yeah.
At the same time, right? Nice.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
So
cool
that was a
perspective.
couple years ago.
Mhm.
And then does he drop once a week?
Sam Harris?
Yep.
I mean, he has new daily meditations on the app every day,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which usually have some, just like some new inquiries into like how to. He's more like focused on non-dualistic mindfulness, which is like, I was talking to you about emptiness earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of from my understanding, an overlap between emptiness and mindfulness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
A little.
Okay.
Because I don't fully get the emptiness yet.
Right.
But I'm going to catch up. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
fuck
listen
yeah,
to
cool.
him. Yeah.
So yeah, he's got like new like mindfulness meditations every day that inquire into that, and he just offers you new ways to notice that there's not a self there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I want to say there's probably a new conversation, at least like a new entire at least hour-long conversation, probably at least like once every couple weeks on there. And then there's tons of like, and I haven't dove into these much yet, but there are tons of just like, yeah, I think he calls them series, like serieses, where there's one person just leads you through an entire just like kind of like experiment like process with, and it's like multiple different meditation sessions, but it's a different voice with different perspectives of how to notice different things about your quality of mind. And there's a fuck ton of those. So you can,
Cool.
there's just like so much, it's such a rich app.
I'm excited
There's a lot to
check
tap
it out.
into.
I'm excited to hear you as you talk about the no self, right?
Yeah.
Say it again, emptiness.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I'm struggling with so much more right now is like fear of death, fear of dying, fear of everything changing, like anticipatory grief.
Oh.
It's really interesting, and I didn't have this before in my life, but this has been really recent. And then I go back to like, oh my God, this is the Buddhist stuff. This is like, I am of the nature to die. Everything is temporary. There's impermanence, and so I've been meditating for years, but I haven't been meditating on that.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned like the no self, that feels like maybe there's some relief in that if I
Yeah.
can really sink into. It was an illusion, anyways.
Certainly.
Like don't be so clingy about this house, this wife, this dog, this life. I get so like, oh my God, I'm so comfy right now.
Right.
I'm so cozy.
Like it always starts with like the I.
I'm so.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure there's relief there to be found, certainly.
Yeah. So thanks for that.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So Sam Harris is the bomb diggity, and there's all kinds of other fucking resources to tap into.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. So, you said you practice a couple times a day.
Yep.
You try to, anyways.
Try to. You know what's interesting? This is a new aspect of the practice. I'm reading the book Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet.
Yeah.
And there's a big component in that about how you communicate and how you're using your breath and your presence as a stable base for communication. And it's the first time, I should grab it, that I've thought of mindfulness in terms of, I've practiced focused attention from the standpoint of finding an object for your attention, usually my breath. It can be sound. You choose an object, and then you will notice a distraction, your mind wanders, and you celebrate your noticing. I noticed it. Oh, okay, I'm distracted. And then you gently bring it back to your anchor. And so that is a focused attention practice that I've been teaching and that I've understood to be the practice for so long. And it's using attention and paying attention and focusing and meta attention. Oh, I'm noticing I'm distracted. I can tell where my attention is, and then I'm going to gently bring it back, right? So it's been one or the other. I'm either noticing I'm distracted or I'm focused on my anchor. But what they're suggesting in this book is that it's kind of you're always staying in touch with your presence, your breath. You're always staying in touch with it while you're listening compassionately to what someone else is saying, and you use your awareness of your body, of your breath, you use that as a gauge, like, oh, my heart rate's going up, I'm breathing quickly, this is activating me. Let me take a deeper breath in and let that out to calm my nervous system. It's this whole different, like, parallel way of paying attention to someone else while you're communicating and using your body to get the signals of activation.
Okay, right.
Does that make sense?
Fuck yeah, yeah. So that's like that. I feel like I'm noticing overlap there between like that and Gwenka. Is that how you
Yeah, I think
pronounce it?
so.
What a cool name. It's fun to say, Gwenka.
If it's true, that's how you say it. Yeah.
But so homeboy, he mentioned that he was, at least from my recollection, he was really stern on like reminding us that everything starts in the body.
Yes. Yes.
So like that's, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And another thing that comes up for me there is like the fact that I think we can get to a place in which we're technically always meditating.
Yeah.
You know, like we're just like always fucking aware.
Yes.
When we're like about to maybe swoon out of emotional regulation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That also reminds me, I had a moment, a couple days ago where I got an unexpected text from my mom of a video of our house, our family like barn getting torn down. So my childhood barn, right? And I was taking a shit in the Eagles bathroom when I watched this video, but I immediately felt something in my body like flick when I I heard the crunching of the barn specifically, and I noticed, oh, something's like changing, like something just happened in me. And so I like finish up, wash my hands, back out to the van. And as soon as I got in the van, I just started bawling. But it was interesting because I noticed it in my body first.
Yes.
Like I don't remember having a thought that, oh, this is sad. I just noticed, whoa, there's been a shift in my feeling, in my sensations in my body.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not something that I'm very well. Would you consider yourself well versed at noticing it in the body first?
No.
I noticed it in my thoughts first.
Yeah, I'm very top heavy.
Yeah.
Everything's intellectualized, and I'm trying to understand it and explain it and put it in words and all that stuff. And I've had a hard time connecting to my body. So, and that's the goal, because we're like in these animal bodies of ours to use. That's interesting that you felt the shift. What kind of shift was it that you noticed?
I can only describe it as like, I want to say it was like central to my chest area, and I just felt a snap. Like I just felt a fucking instant, like, an instant feeling of uneasiness, just like completely wash over me. And I remember, like, as soon as I felt it, I questioned, like, is this making me sad? Like, what's going on here? And then when I got in the van and I started crying, then I noticed all these memories coming up of the barn and the cats, and I was like, I'm sad. I'm grieving.
Oh, that's
like the barn is
interesting.
gone. And I pieced it together, and yeah.
That's so interesting. And I think that, you know, when I do trainings on mindfulness, we say we want to learn how to do body scans so that we can heighten our awareness of the sensations as they come up, because we can mine them for data. But in my experience, if there's something huge that happens, you're driving, you almost get T-boned in your van.
Yeah.
You can push her away.
No, it's okay. I'm chilling.
She's loving on some OP.
Watch it. You're cute.
Come here, honey. Come on.
She's like, no. She's pretty. So you're saying?
So I'm saying we're driving down the road and you almost get in an accident. And like a lot of people can conjure up that experience, that flush of energy, that adrenaline that goes through you, and you can feel it. Like, oh yeah, that's emotion in my body. I can feel it. I can conjure that. I know that emotion has a physiological component to it. If it's obvious, if it's a big thing.
Right.
You and I are out having coffee and someone walks in that you haven't seen forever, and there's this flush of emotion as you are so happy, but it's the subtleties. So what you explained feels like a big fucking deal that happened. So you noticed this shift,
right?
And then you went and unpacked it in the van as to what it was. But I think the practice is to really be able to tune in. And I have a friend of mine who's raised Buddhist and been practicing forever, and he's now in his 40s. And his vocabulary of emotion is not in words; it is in sensations, which I think is fascinating.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the fact that like it's at least for it sounds like for both me and you, it's now about tuning into the subtle ones, because I think technically speaking, all the time we're feeling something.
Right.
You know, like, and any and everything we're doing, even like how big of a sip of tea we're taking can have a fucking like can shift things. And yeah, like I just don't I don't see thoughts as being the most effective way to catch that, because I might not think about like how I'm trying to think, what am I trying to say here? I think tuning into the body is like, at least my goal for right now, is seemingly the most effective way to like notice emotions.
Right. I think it's remembering how to tune into it and retuning into it. Because I think when we were kids, we were there.
Dude.
I mean,
fuck yeah.
Pre-verbal life, it was all about sensations.
Yes.
Before we had the stories, before we had the words. So it's then we get, and technology takes us way far out of our bodies, right?
Yeah.
Because we're here.
Yeah.
We're numb. And I think that was the point, the body scan in Vipassana. Did you start at the tip of your nose with the breathing? And it took a while for me to be able to feel that. Did it take you a while?
Fuck yeah, dude. Bro, yeah. Wasn't it on the Cupid's bow or whatever?
Yeah,
That's where... And I was like, for the first fucking day, I was like, I'm not feeling anything here. Like, fuck this guy, fuck this Vipassana retreat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And yeah. Wow, and that is, what a good... That's, of course, now I recognize that's probably intentional. Because it makes you it makes you kind of like hone in. Like, get into it. Focus up, bitch.
Focus up. If you pay attention, you can
yes.
feel.
Right.
And then it gradually, right? It gradually tuned that up. But on a day-to-day, I don't do a lot of body scanning. Do you do body scans?
Yeah, I feel like I switch it up at least every other day. I'll do a body scan. I'll do a Vipassana.
You will.
Practice.
You'll do a full. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you came out of your retreat, the recommendation was, I think, 2 hours a day. Wasn't it like a morning and afternoon set? Did you do it?
I did. I think an hour a day for a while. I didn't do 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I did an hour. Yeah. I do remember that recommendation. I think it was like an hour in the morning and then an hour after, like in the evening.
Yeah.
And that would be fucking badass. I mean, I love that practice. Do you ever? You said you don't really body scan anymore?
I haven't. No, once in a while.
It's interesting. I really like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it is. I think, at least in my view, right, of my understanding right now, I think it is the most effective way to just fucking tune in. Like, we're talking about practicing tuning into our bodies more. That is like the way to fucking do it. Just formally sit down.
Yep.
And look.
Yeah.
Or feel. Rather.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I share one of the most interesting, helpful applications of mindfulness?
Fuck yeah, please.
We talked about this a while ago, but the bear incident.
Yes, dude, please
do. Right,
do.
okay, so we had a bear incident where this dog chased a bear cub into our yard, and I chased the dog into the yard, and when I got to the dog, the mama bear was on the dog. So I had the whole adrenaline rush. I picked up this big piece of driftwood. I held it over my head and screamed. The mama bear dropped the dog and stood up and gave me 2 whacks, so she got me twice. So, and then our neighbors were in their car that moment and honked the horn and stopped the attack. So the bears ran off and we went upstairs and we got emergency care, but we were both traumatized. And what was so interesting about I'm so happy for mindfulness is that I could watch my trauma from a little bit of a distance and it was still, I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
And I'm such a type A that I was like at my doctor's office the next day saying, I need a trauma therapist this week because I don't have time to deal with the trauma. I've got to get back to work,
That's
right?
Fucking funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I need someone that can do the EMDR. Let's knock it out.
That's fucking awesome.
It was really.
I relate to that too.
Do you?
Hell yeah.
Oh my God. I'm like, because I know you're right. This is the research-based, evidence-based best way to deal with trauma. So let's do it and get it done. But it doesn't work like that. So, but I could watch myself having all these, I could watch from a loving presence my revisualizations. I had the intrusive images of the bear eating the dog that kept coming up and waking me up, and it was in my dreams, and I could go, that's what that is. I could be loving towards myself instead of, I had that instinct to let's get better. Just once I settled in, like, oh, this is going to be a process, I could hold myself in a different way with some kindness.
Yeah.
I watched myself heal over the month. And I think, did I share with you that I learned that you can't diagnose PTSD until after 30 days has gone by?
Yeah, right.
And then, like, a couple days before the 30-day mark, I got my energy back, and I was like, I'm going to wash all the windows in the house. Like, because I wasn't functioning. I wasn't functioning normally. I couldn't think straight, pay attention, motivate, organize, work right. I was lost all the time. I was just in this haze of survival instinct. It was so interesting, but so much more interesting because of the mindfulness practice, because I could observe it and from a loving kind, a place of loving kindness, which is interesting. And I don't know what it would have been like without that. Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, I don't know the answer to that question, but like, yeah, that brings up a couple things for me. One of them is like just reminiscing on. I mean, like, just the moment that I just shared about me being in the Ingles bathroom, like. There is just something so fucking cool and like kind of exciting to me to explore when I'm going through some serious shit, but I'm mindful that I'm going through something serious. Like, like when a while back when I first started working as a wilderness guide, I watched a client have like a full-blown schizophrenic episode. And I was just like, this human, Opie, is watching another human go through like some serious shit. And I was feeling things too. I was like, dude, I was mindful of it, and there is something kind of, I want to like label it as like liberating, because there's like just a little bit of space. It feels like a little bit of space,
just enough to catch your breath, even though this thing is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And dude, okay, so and the other thing I wanted to mention was, you mentioned this a while back when you had first kind of told me about the bear story.
Yeah.
And that like something about the 30 days. Oh, you mentioned that. There's a healing process to our minds.
Right.
Just like the fucking body.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I remember.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. It was so surprising that because I was in such a fog for those 28 days, and I was so surprised when I felt better, but it was like the analogy was like, of course, if you get a gash, if you get a major cut on your leg, of course it's going to bleed, it's going to be awful for a while, and it's eventually going to scab over, and then that scab's going to fall off, and there's a process to it, and then it's going to get better, and there'll be a scar, but it's going to get better, it's going to take time. So I was like, well, this was a psychological wound. I've never thought of a psychological wounding before. And the process that would follow, like, of course your mind's going to heal, hopefully, if you have all the protective factors in place. Like, I was so appreciative. There's so many things I was appreciative for, because I could not stop the trauma from happening. But I also am in a very stable situation. I've had tons of therapy. I have a mindfulness practice. I have a loving wife. I have all these things together that helped my healing, right?
Right.
Which is kind of like if you had a big, awful gash on your leg, you'd want to have everything you needed to help that get better, right? You're not going to keep exposing it. You're not going to keep digging it open. You're not going to keep infecting it. But yeah, that was a big, it was a psychological wound. And if everything is supportive, we can heal. Maybe without moving into a post-traumatic stress situation. But a lot of us aren't that fortunate, especially when we're kids.
So what do you think are like some of the more important bandages to have when it comes to, like, what are the more important factors there, do you think?
Okay, and so I'm thinking for myself, and then I'm also thinking for I always think of children. This is my sign for children, right?
Right.
If we're experiencing a trauma as a child, to be able to have a safe place to come back to. Right?
Like physically?
Physically and psychologically. So I came inside this house, even though I was scared of the outside for months, and definitely that first 30 days, I knew I was safe inside and I was with a safe person where I could have this trauma and I could talk about it and I could cry or I could freak out or I could do whatever, and she was safe because she's stable and she's psychologically grounded. And I think you need that to heal. just like your body would need a safe place to rest,
Yeah.
right? If you're traumatized and you go back to an environment where that trauma is going to keep happening,
Dang.
how is that going to heal?
Yeah.
And it's, that's where this lifelong, the trauma, childhood trauma creates lifelong struggling and suffering. That was one of the other big learnings was, oh my gosh, this has been such a profound event, this trauma, for my ability to operate in the world. No wonder children who suffer trauma and live with a mama bear who's continually, not a protective mama bear, but a mama bear
Yeah.
attacking them, no wonder they go to school and they can't focus, organize, motivate. They're trying to survive, do you know?
Right.
And there's so much trauma in the world, like 90% worldwide will survive a trauma. That's amazing to me. So it just softened me towards all human beings, knowing that 9 out of 10 of us have gone through something or are going through something that is big time. We may or may not have the protective factors in place to help us heal.
Damn, yeah.
You know?
What a good opportunity to like to just tune into that, feel it, and just like dial up the compassion and empathy.
It does. And it's interesting to me how like I can cognitively try to empathize and be compassionate with someone, but it's different when you're in it. Do you know what I mean? It's such a lesson to go through the thing itself.
Oh, right.
Because I had studied trauma. I'm a trauma sensitive mindfulness instructor. I've studied trauma and what it means for children, and I knew it intellectually, but I hadn't had it happen
Oh, right.
to my nervous system and my body. Then it was just, yeah, it was a gift.
So on the note of trauma, real quick, what you said 90% of the population like has traumas.
Has trauma. You will survive a trauma.
Okay, so what I usually my thought on that, or my instinct on that is that like I think to some extent everybody, like every single human being survives some kind of like traumatic thing. Of course there's like differences.
Yeah.
Right? Like of course we can sit here and like judge some as worse or some as not so bad. But I think ultimately like something probably fucks us up a little bit when we're kids. So that leads me to ask, like, what is it? What's like your / or science's definition of like a trauma? Like, what classifies as one?
What classifies as trauma? And I am not a specialist.
Okay.
So I will speak to what I remember in the moment.
Sure.
Trauma happens when your body, when something happens that there's a risk of losing life or limb, and your body goes into survival mode.
Okay.
Right. So you've got that flash of fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn. There's all these different F's now.
Yeah.
But your body goes into a thing to keep you alive. And so when there's risk of loss of life or limb, and I think it becomes post-traumatic if you're stuck in that survival mode.
Right.
Right? So there's little T traumas and there's big T traumas. Right? But
Got you.
yes. But, something that's relatively new in terms of understanding childhood trauma or the types of trauma that affect childhood, they're called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And there's 9 of them that I can remember, but one is like any type of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional abuse in childhood. We'll do a number on you. Violence. Violence, seeing violence. So if you had a father who beat your mother and you saw that, or you had a violent neighborhood and you saw violence against people, that's a trauma. Losing a parent, death or incarceration. There's a lot of incarcerated family members.
Yeah.
Mental health, addiction in your house. So someone with mental health that's not treated, addiction that's not treated. I think that's 9. But I would add, and there's been studies on ACEs.
Okay.
And if the more of those ACEs you have, the more likely you are to struggle socially, mentally, emotionally, vocationally. You die younger usually. You have more physical health. I mean, it all gets encoded into your system.
Yeah.
So, and the trauma can start in utero. So if you're in utero and your mom has adrenaline cortisol coursing through her system because she's in fight or flight, your little nervous system is being wired to come out with more adrenaline and cortisol in your system. So it's really interesting. But what's not mentioned in there is poverty. War would be included in the violence piece. Like all the trauma that's happening right now doesn't matter what age you are in the war-torn areas. It's just mind-boggling to me how any of those people will ever function again, right? And I don't. We're so lucky. Living in poverty is traumatic, and school can traumatize us if we have learning differences. And I'm sure there's more, but yeah, there's so much that have the potential to face when we're little, and then as we grow, of course. So yeah, it's everywhere. These human bodies, these animal bodies that want to survive above all else.
Right. Dude, I'm hung up on the fact that like we can experience trauma in utero, and like that reminds me a while back, like months ago, I had heard about like people intentionally like trying to unpack their birth trauma, like because we come out crying usually, and that could be like probably like hard on us, and I'm still not too sure on like if we can really intentionally tap into like that specific
I don't know
thing, but like I don't. At first I was unsure of the whole idea, like why would we can't remember when we were born, at least I don't, and I don't think many of us do. Like how the fuck would that stick to us? But now I like understand so much more about like not physiologically speaking, like we get stained from anything, I think. So yeah, like that definitely, it's just interesting for me to conceptualize about that existing.
the in utero piece of it.
Yep.
And
that things that we literally can't even recall are still absolutely shaping who we are in this exact moment.
It's pretty wild.
It is.
The causes and conditions.
Yeah.
That led to this moment
in
time. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. It's interesting. So, do I want to get into that or not? So I'm learning all about trauma several years ago, probably 10 years ago now. And then my dad passes away. And I find his two things happen at once. His brother, so my uncle writes a book about their childhood that my dad rarely talked about. And I find his report cards when he was in school. My dad's traumatic childhood explained everything I knew about his life. Right? He lived in poverty. His father was undiagnosed, probably bipolar and suicidal at points in time. He watched his father get run over by a car, major accident.
Wow.
Alcoholism, so much family trauma, and my dad had a learning difference. So I found his little report cards, and they were all the blaming the kid, like in first grade. Joey says he feels sick when it's his turn to read, but he's better afterwards. I think it's his spirit that's sick and not his physical body, like the teacher note on this little report card. So he had all these traumas. Fast forward in life, he was a really gregarious, he was a salesman. He was the life of the party, super fun. We bonded over drinking together, doing funnels when I was in college. Like we were party buddies, but it led to chronic illness. He was addicted to Oxycontin at one point. He was an alcoholic. He got addicted to Oxycontin because he had a back issue. He struggled socially. He struggled with his employers always, and he ultimately died. And it's 71, really early, young. But it was so interesting to me that all of that studying, I didn't realize I was studying my own father. And potentially also my mother at some point when I learned more about her. But yeah, it has lifelong implications, our early childhood. And doesn't that soften you towards all of our shared suffering?
Yeah.
Because you don't have a choice when you're a kid. Or ever, maybe.
Yeah. If we will.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Do we want to crack into that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Back to mindfulness, and specifically, like, so you called yourself a trauma-based mindfulness therapist?
Trauma sensitive mindfulness instructor,
Gotcha.
not a therapist.
Word.
Which is to say, do you want to know what that is?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which is to say, I know a little bit about trauma and how it gets stored in the body, and asking in the type of mindfulness that we teach in the program that I teach for leadership, we ask people to focus on an anchor point, and asking someone to focus on their breath if they've been through trauma can be reactivating, because think about what happens when you're traumatized.
Yeah. Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
you're in fight or flight, and so your whole nervous system is going, and your breath is dysregulated. So, so one of the things that we do is offer different anchors,
Got you.
right? If breath is uncomfortable, you can focus on physical touch. You can focus on sound. We offer, you always want to say how long we're going to be practicing so they know what to expect. So predictability is important. You don't have to close your eyes, because if you're someone who's struggling with surviving a trauma, you're often very hypervigilant. You want your eyes open. So asking someone to close their eyes can really feel unsafe.
Yeah.
You're always in choice. If anything's too much, too fast, too soon, open your eyes, stand up, walk around, take a break. Like, you want to keep people, we want to all be practicing in what's called a window of tolerance, which is this window where our nervous system is regulated enough that we can experience the benefits of mindfulness. We're not hyper aroused.
Yeah.
We're not here. We're not breathing fast. We're not dysregulated in that way, and we're not hypo aroused. So we can get hyper and hypo aroused when we're in a trauma response. Hypo aroused would be like, I'm going to fall asleep, I'm going to check out, I'm going to get really lethargic, I can't deal with what's going on. It's kind of like dissociating almost, in my understanding, because I'm not a specialist. So but those are the big broad strokes of what we were kind of
Got you.
alerted to, and to give people options while they're practicing, and then also to notice what's going on with someone. If we see someone sweating or agitated, or, that we can pull them out of it and check in with them.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting, and so David Treleavan,
Okay.
Treleavan, I believe, is kind of the guy. He's also a, I don't want to misspeak. He's a scientist. He's a therapist. But he also, I think it was in a Vipassana retreat, realized that he was having traumatic re-traumatization in practice, and realizing that, oh my gosh, there's a reason to look into the intersection of mindfulness and trauma to see what's going on here. Because I think I shared with you at my Vipassana retreat, they just kept pulling us back to just focus on your breath, focus on sensations. They wanted us to come back, and it was not trauma sensitive. And there was a woman from Vietnam, I think I told you, or Korea.
Yeah, who
That's awful that I
was
remember.
getting like re-triggered and
Who was getting reactivated, and she would say, I'm having these dreams at night that I'm like, she was reliving parts of the war she had been in, and it just kept bringing her back to close your eyes and focus on sensation. And now, knowing what I know, I was like, gosh, that was so probably very unhelpful.
yeah.
You know,
Do you think it's like, I mean, so you think it's just like mega ineffective? Like, could it still?
it can still be effective.
Yeah.
I think
Just
you
maybe-
need to be aware.
Yeah.
I think there's some education, psychoeducation that needs to go alongside of it,
Right.
so that you can be self-responsive and know if you're outside of your window of tolerance, you know,
Yeah.
and take a break. Yeah,
But you gotta be aware of it.
you got to be aware of it. Yeah, but there's a lot. There's also a lot of like, a lot of people say I can't meditate. You ever run into that?
Yeah.
I can't do it
I was
because
that too.
I can't stop my mind. There's the
Yeah.
misconception that you're supposed to stop your thoughts and be just totally blissed out the whole time.
Yeah.
But, no, it's sitting with all that, right? So,
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that, but it can still be helpful if there's education,
Hell yeah.
right? Yeah.
Right. So, what? So collegially speaking, is that a word?
Say it again.
Collegially,
Collegially?
college-wise speaking.
Collegially, sure. Yeah.
I'm just curious if you have a degree in some kind of speech thing, right?
Speech and language pathology, which is the study of communication, but specifically disorders of communication.
Okay.
Anything that interrupts your ability to communicate. You had a stroke, can't talk anymore. You stutter. You're on the autism spectrum, you don't get social cues.
Right.
You can't say your R's or your S's, or you talk like this a lot. Right? There's all these different ways our communication can break down. But I'm now more interested in communication for conflict resolution and compassionate communication, right?
Got
So
you.
speech and language pathology is pathologizing communication. So that's looking at it as the disorders. How do we fix the disorders or the delays? It doesn't look at how to skillfully communicate for relationships. And then I have a literacy master's. But my favorite learning has been after that. It's been all the self-sought out type of stuff that you're into too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what's been like, well, I guess I kind of already asked this earlier. I was going to ask, like, what's been the most impactful mindfulness thing. But that was kind of the same question as like I asked earlier about.
Yeah, I
most,
still feel like a newbie. I
yeah.
mean, I'm only 8 years into my own practice, and I'm teaching it, but I will learn it my whole life. I feel like it's a lifelong
Dude,
pursuit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the fucking. I'm not in that mindset as often as I think I should be. Like, I feel a lot like I got this. Like, I'm on top of my shit. Um, I get cool, pretty like ego heavy about it sometimes. But ultimately, I totally think that no, this is a totally a fucking thing that I'm just gonna have to. I'm just I get to continue to sharpen
Yeah.
this sword for the
Yeah.
rest of my life.
Yeah.
And you literally like it. I'm glad that it's to the point now for me that I'm noticing I can sharpen that sword without actually sitting
Yeah.
down and doing a formal practice.
Yep.
Like I've been doing it the entire fucking conversation. You know? I've been tuning into the words that you're saying and your eyes and like you know what I'm saying? Like it's the sharpening can literally always be happening.
Yeah.
But at first it was fucking vital for me to sit down
Yeah.
and like realize, oh, I'm focusing on my breath.
Yeah.
And here's when I'm not, and here's what it feels like in my body when I'm not.
Yep. Yep.
When I've grown distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the sitting's been helpful for me just to notice the patterns of mind. I'm always in the future. I'm always planning. There's, just like there's this whole weather system going on in ourselves. It's like, what is it? Yeah, to step back and look at it. But I agree, and I think that something I enjoy about Thich Nhat Hanh are how he instructs on bringing it with you in everything that you do. So when I'm washing dishes, I know that I'm washing dishes. When I'm taking a shower, I'm feeling the temperature and the water washing over me. I'm here. I'm bringing it, and so I feel like just recently with my increased anxiety about all things leaving, I'm trying to be in the moment and present with what I'm doing because there's only one way to live life, and that's in this moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So that, dude, I think you'll like Sam Harris's app. So he just on his app, it sends you, if you enable it, like if you let it, it'll notify you just like 1 or 2 times a day. It'll encourage you to take a moment, and it'll send you just kind of like this little clip of Sam talking, and
oh, good.
just for like it's usually like between 30 seconds to like a minute and 30 seconds long, in which he just kind of says like, hey, and notice this kind of thing. And just yesterday I got one that was like he encouraged whatever task you're about to do once you hang up this like phone message, do it, like pay attention as clearly as you can, and just try to notice that anything is worth that like anything is worth just completely dropping into.
Yeah.
And then do it. Yeah. So there's really fucking cool little insightful and then there's badass quotes that I can send you to, where you read it and you're just like, fuck, dude.
I love that infusion.
Yeah.
The extra infusion.
Yeah, a little sprinkle.
Well, it's interesting. I can't remember the study. It's King's something study. They did the studying how often people are distracted.
Okay.
Right? And they were just kind of like on your device, they would ping you throughout the day and say, what are you doing?
Oh.
Are you paying attention to it? And how do you feel? And so what they found is like 40, this is before the pandemic even, so I think it's probably different. 47% of the time people were distracted. And when they were distracted, they were less likely to be happy. So a wandering mind is an unhappy mind, right? But to like put it into interesting numbers, if you think about, let's just round up to 50%. That's easier than 47%. Okay, so if we say, all right, 50% of our waking moments, we have the potential to be distracted. So let's say we live to be 60, and we sleep a third of our lives.
Yeah.
All right, so we sleep a third of our lives, let's say. We're making all the numbers easy. So, no, let's say we live to 90. That's more optimistic. We live to 90. We sleep for 30 years. So we've got 60 years that we're awake and we're not paying attention. We're not present for 30 of those years, 50% of the time. So we're alive for 90 years, but only 30 of those years we're actually in the moment, experiencing it, hearing, touching, feeling, connecting. That is so striking to me that we can level up our capacity to be living the moment, because our mind will time travel. It'll
Right.
go all over the place.
Fuck yeah, she will. Dude. Yeah, that flashes me back to 3 or 4 years. This previous versions of myself where I was usually really caught up in like, what's my next task?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Is my weekend filled up with things to keep me busy and to make sure I get my to-do list done? And it was just always like next, future.
Yeah.
And I remember my girlfriend at the time was really good at being like she's better than me anyways at being present, and so she would just like notice these little things about like our environment that we were in, and I always noticed like, why are you like at the time I think I judged. I was just like, why are you paying attention to like dumb little shit like that? But now I fucking love noticing the shadow of the clouds on the side of a fucking mountain.
Yeah.
Like, that's presence, bro.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I cherish so much more now. But what's weird is at the same time, like, I think it's extremely useful at times that humans have the ability to, like, be in the future. And then and then being in the past sometimes. Like, you ever fucking scrolled through your phone and looked at old pictures?
Yeah.
And felt like, fuck, dude, I miss the Rocky Mountains or whatever it might be. Like, I think that's also really cool and useful at times that we can experience that. But I think presence, at least for me, the present moment definitely takes priority over the past and future.
It's interesting because can you be present while you're reflecting on the past? Do you know what I mean? Do you get like...
Like, if you're reflecting, are you saying...
I'm going to look through my phone and I'm scrolling through my phone. Can I be aware of the feelings in this moment that I'm having while I'm having... Like, this is my past stimuli, or I'm thinking about something in the past. Can I be aware of that in a way that's different than being... What's the opposite of presence?
Distracted?
Distracted? Can you be swept away and lose the present moment completely when you're time traveling in your mind? Or is there a way to like kind of have parallel tracks going? So I'm planning the future and I'm thinking about the future and I know that I'm planning for the future.
Yeah.
And I'm also aware of it because it's a choice, maybe not.
Well, I think I know what you're saying. Like, yeah, you're letting... there's moments where I'll consciously where I think I'm consciously letting myself wander into the future because I do need to plan something.
Yeah, right.
Is that kind of like, is that getting traction with what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, are you at? I don't know that we can have multiple tracks actually running at the same moment.
Right.
I don't think that's how attention works. I think it's, that to me sounds like multitasking, and I don't think multitasking actually exists.
I know. Right.
Scientifically speaking, like neuroscientifically speaking.
So I'm on a couple tracks right now. I'm going to stop because I have different thoughts on that. There's a lot to it. We could go down rabbit holes on this.
Yeah, we could.
We'll do it over dinner.
Okay. Cool. Fuck yeah. Okay. So what specifically got you into the trauma sensitive stuff? What was the magnet there, if anything?
I think that I have been trying to decode human behavior for a long time. Like
since little.
Since little, and that came from being hypervigilant about what mood was my dad in, what version was I going to get. Right, that's a survival thing. Do I have to tiptoe, or are we going to have fun and play, or we're in the middle of fun and play, but something just changed, and I got to tiptoe again. But as an educator, something that we're trained to do is try to figure out what's going on with behavior, because if you're in school, we want you to behave like we want you to behave. I worked in schools for 12 years.
Right.
But there is a book called What Happened to You that is by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry, who is a child psychiatrist, I believe. Oprah did a story with him looking at the effects of childhood trauma on our whole life and helped identify that your behavior could very likely be a product of what happened in your childhood, right? So the idea there was when you see someone behaving in a certain way, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? it's a total perspective shift if you understand the trauma piece of not from what's wrong with you to what happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so
Fuck
much more
yeah.
compassion there. What happened to you? So when there's a kid who's dysregulated that I'm working with, who's super dysregulated, my old self would be, I have a lesson plan. I put this lesson plan together. We need you to get through it because I need you to learn these things and I need to get you back to class. So how am I going to help you get your behavior together so that I get what I want out of this? Right?
Right.
So I, over the years as an educator, have come finally, thank goodness, probably about 5 years ago, flipped all of that. Like the most important thing when I'm with a child or another adult is to see them as a human being first and to not personalize other people's behavior. Because other people's behavior comes from trying to meet their needs,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the trauma stuff, which comes from trying to be safe.
Right.
It's related to needs.
Absolutely.
So I think that trying to decode behavior and understand behavior, both in children that I work with, but family members, people, just like you know, instead of needing to be defensive and judge, I hate that feeling. It feels awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what started it.
Was it reading that book?
Watching, there's a 5-minute, I can send it to you, 60 minutes clip
Okay, weird.
of Oprah with Bruce Perry.
Gotcha.
Talking about that. And she says to him, like, so if you see, Dr. Bruce Perry, you see a guy shooting up a church, you know, the first thought isn't, what's wrong with you? It's, what happened to you? What happened to you that led you to this? What are the causes and conditions,
parts, yeah.
y'all, that led
came
you
together?
to this moment? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a more compassionate way to look at people. And I'm
Hell
always
yeah.
looking for, I need a perspective to help me find that compassion, and that's a very helpful perspective for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that reminds me of like the saying or something that a good friend of mine put me on, like a little kind of thought experiment you can do whenever you catch yourself judging somebody, is like so you notice you notice I'm judging them.
Yep.
Take like whatever primary judgmental thought there is, and then follow it up by saying just like me. So if you see like if you're in Walmart and
Yeah.
you see somebody like in their pajamas still and they look a little like stanky,
Yeah.
you say like, God, that person like looks like shit, just like me. And what it does for me is it makes me think I have been in public before and I've looked like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've done that.
Yeah.
And it just kind of forces you to fucking empathize a little
Yeah.
bit and like loosen the fuck up, asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Just like me. It's an actual loving kindness meditation that we do.
Dude. Oh, bro. Yeah.
The just like me
Yeah.
meditation. Have you done that before?
Meta?
That practice?
Meta loving kindness?
Meta loving kindness?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you done it with another human being? Been led through it in a workshop ever?
Well, Gwenka did some meta loving kindness towards the end of Vipassana.
I don't remember that piece.
I haven't done a specific workshop though.
Okay. But the idea, I think just like me, is very powerful for remembering our shared humanity.
Right.
And I think the judgments that we fire off at other people are often judgments that we have, like, every time I point at you, there's 3 fingers pointed back at me.
Oh my
you know,
God.
that thing?
Yeah, I love that. Nice.
But I do think that we tend to judge other people more harshly when it's something that we're worried about ourselves. You brought
Yes.
up the, like, being in public looking stanky.
Yeah.
Right?
Little stank.
Yeah, so just like me. That's helpful.
On the note of meta loving kindness practices, I had a good couple of conversations with my homeboy Chris about meta loving kindness, who I told you about. He's another big meditator, right? But he brought up the idea of, and I think it's in the book that I'm reading right now by the Dalai Lama. He gave that to me, and I think in the book there's a practice in it that he was describing that's the opposite of meta loving kindness. So you imagine intense, deep suffering, and like recognize you don't want that for anybody.
No.
And that itself being kind of the practice of like, you know what I'm saying? So like in that, I haven't quite done that yet. I've been really meaning to sit down and do that, but I did like a 10-minute one the other day, but he encouraged me to like give myself a good amount of time to do it. But it's kind of a turnoff for me to think, I need to sit down and think about suffering for an hour. Like, what the fuck? Who wants to do that?
Right.
But I do want to explore that.
Yeah.
How does that land for you? Does that bring up anything? Any ideas?
It reminds me of any time I see someone suffering, how quickly I soften towards them,
yeah.
right? If someone, oh my God, there's a great video. There's a couple videos online, but one of them is in Thailand, and it's this in a police station, and a civilian off the street comes in waving a knife. He's waving a knife, and he's yelling, and he's upset, and so his behavior we could judge as bad. He's crazy. Look at this guy. And one of the police officers talks to him, and ends up taking the knife and hugging him, and he just melts. He melts, and this dude starts sobbing. So to me, and there's another one where there's a kid. Potentially, it's a kid who walks into a school with a gun. He's got a gun. And he's in the hallway, and a teacher comes towards him. It's a trusted teacher, and talks to him and talks to him and talks to him, and ends up getting close enough to take the gun and just hugs that kid, and that kid starts crying. And it's just like all this behavior that we see is masking suffering. And when it's met with kindness, to see these people melt into tears and being rocked by another human being, it so softens me.
That's
so
fucking moving. That is
Yeah,
that is really like.
I'll find those clips and send them to you.
Please do.
Because there's always suffering under it, right?
Right. Yeah, it's like literally just always a human like trying to get a need met.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I feel like that's for some people, this is like a hot take, you know, to just be, for our goal to always be like to empathize and be compassionate. Do you know what I'm saying?
Say more.
Like, for some people, it's, I'll speak just for myself. At one point, when I like did witness people like me now who would rather respond to a conflict with empathy and compassion versus anger. I used to be somebody who was just like, no, I want to judge. I would just rather get mad and get angry at somebody. I'm just saying, like, it's at that time when I did see people who were able to empathize and be compassionate, and they chose that over anger, I was like, well, fucking stop. Like, just like, I would just judge that itself.
Right.
As like, dude, no, like, we need to discipline them. Like, we need to send them to jail, or we need to, like, send them to prison, or, like, give them the death penalty and shit.
Yeah.
But now, and I don't know, that's why I call it a hot take, because at one point in my life, I was like, oh, why the fuck would we do that? Why would we empathize with somebody who, like, raped somebody?
Right.
And, like, of course, I'm not taking it away at all that, like, rape is pretty gnarly. That's bad.
Yeah.
Not ideal. But,
Yeah.
like, fuck. There is,
There's so much to be said there.
Mm-hmm.
But the just like me, the shared humanity, our shared suffering, that's such insight to that.
Yeah.
Versus,
That's a good word.
you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think another takeaway from the bear incident, was that it wasn't personal. That bear attacking me and attacking the dog, it wasn't personal. It was protective.
Yeah.
And that's a metaphor for anyone whose behavior, we personalize everyone's behavior so easily. We can.
Yeah.
It's because we're always protecting ourselves, right? So it's like the bear was protecting her cubs, the dog was protecting us in the house, and I was protecting the dog. There's 3 animals in the yard being protective. None of it was personal. And that's such a metaphor for life when I'm in front of whoever and they're behaving in whatever way. I could take it personally. Have you read the 4 Agreements?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not all of it, actually.
But there's one, don't take it personally, right?
Yeah.
Don't personalize. Like, we could take it personally, or we could recognize the massive complexity that led to the moment of this person behaving in this way.
Dude.
That has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
We might just happen to be there. So if we can remember that and tap into it, but we're still going to probably catch our nervous system's going to do the thing.
Yeah.
We're going to be in a protective mode. If they're acting in a certain way, we might feel that. But if we're aware enough to go, okay, that's what's happening. This doesn't have to do with me. I don't have to start telling a story that's going to make it even worse and ramp it up.
Ooh, yes.
But it's the shared humanity piece that's tricky. And when I do just like me in trainings.
Word.
And we go through a whole meditation, and they're sitting across from another person. So we do the just like me. This person sitting across from me has a body and a mind just like me. This person sitting across from me has had many moments in their life of joy and suffering and desire, and just like me. So we go through this whole thing, and then we start wishing kindness for this person. And inevitably, then we expand out. So I wish you kindness, may you be free from suffering. Then we wish everyone in the room kindness, and then we expand it to our friends and family, and then the whole world. There will inevitably be people that at the end say, I can't do it for everybody. I can't. There are people that are evil and awful, and I can't wish them kindness. And it's just like, but they're evil and awful in your mind. But why?
Yeah. I do a little bit of digging.
There's suffering there. And what happened when they were here that got them to be how they are now? I mean,
Right.
it's hard work. That's the hard work. But it's like
yeah.
you can. And something I just learned in my Thich Nhat Hanh book is the person's not the enemy. It's the energy of the fear, the hate, the disgust, whatever's in them that's driving their behavior. That's the problem. But they're worthy of compassion because they're a human being.
Right.
That was a good reframe too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yup.
Y'all.
Dude, yeah, like it makes me think about I feel like everybody in their life has held the door for somebody else, at least once, right?
Yeah.
If there's a door to hold.
Yeah.
And that just makes me think like, so everybody is to some extent good. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has done something fucking good for the world. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I also love thinking about how none of us are the worst thing we've ever done.
Whoa. I'm gonna ponder that one. It feels juicy.
It feels really juicy.
I'll let it marinate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds. Not that. A little bit ago, I was reminded of something I wanted to mention, which was the other day, I walked around. I went into Publix, the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
And after going to the bathroom, I literally went in there just to go to the bathroom, per usual. That's a van life thing, right? And I went in, washed my hands, and all I did, I just walked around the store, and I just I didn't buy anything. I just practiced noticing. Right? I tried to like practice every time that I would look at somebody, I would try to see that like this human is something that I could love about them. You know what I'm saying? Like no matter what look I thought they gave me, or no matter what story I could just start fucking writing along to, I was trying to practice like, no, like let's smile at this person even if we don't get a smile back, and just notice that there is something there to fuck with, to vibe with.
Yeah.
I just did that for like 5 minutes. Just walked around and very intentionally made eye contact with people and like.
I love it.
It was fun.
Well, how did they respond?
Well, there was, you mean like smiles and shit? Yeah, there was a couple of misses you could label them as.
Yeah.
But like those were the best parts kind of, because that's when I was like, that was a real challenge for me to be like, it's fine. It's not personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the opportunity, or that is an opportunity to notice.
Right.
It's not me.
It's not me.
And like I can still love this person.
I love it. I love that if we bring curiosity to a situation, there's more opportunity for compassion. And there's a great story. I was on the plane once, flying to Buffalo to do a training, and I was training in the love and kindness stuff.
Okay.
And the stewardess was my judgy self would be like, what a bitch. She was not smiling and not pleasant and throwing things at people, their food. What do you want? You want something to drink? She was just being so unfriendly. So my friend and I were talking about it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to amp up this practice. First of all, I have to get curious. Curiosity is always a help. Yeah. So she came by again to pick up our stuff, and I said, hey, are you doing okay today? And, she had been wrapping around, and she said, no, I'm not okay today. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I hope you're feeling better. And she said, well, thanks. And she softened, and she went on. And then I went to the bathroom later, and I found her in the front, and I said, is there anything anything going on? And she said, my aunt is dying right now, and I know I'm not going to make it in time. I couldn't get a replacement for this freaking shift.
Oh my God.
Do you know? I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And just kind of, we both teared up, and I don't remember. She softened and changed completely. Kind of like the guy with the knife and the officer hugging him. Like
Right.
the curiosity and offering kindness can be such a connective,
Dude.
transformative offering to someone if we don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
So when I lean into that with the smiles or, hey, how you doing? I love my favorite, my father-in-law calls it the 2-minute relationships. Wherever
Well,
you, right? Just the cashier, the whoever.
Yeah.
How you doing today? Like just having a little exchange. And there's actually research, I think, out of Yale that says that people actually will report they like that. Like people are rarely comfortable initiating those conversations with strangers, but most people after that happened, they did an experiment where they had someone on a train like initiating all these
Okay.
impromptu conversations, and then
Yeah.
they'd interview the people getting off, and most people were like, yeah, that was really awesome. It
Oh,
made me
wow.
happy. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I like that you just intentionally smiled and looked, and yeah, there's something to it.
Yeah. There's definitely some, just something to explore there and practice.
Absolutely.
So, you did something with Steve Torma,
Yes.
right? When it just a Saturday kind of single day thing, right?
My class with him,
Yeah.
5 weeks.
Oh, got you.
It was 5 weeks.
Oh, I thought you said it was a single day thing.
Nope.
Anyways.
I met him on one single day and did like a walk in the park, but this was a 5 weeks,
Okay.
2 hours class, kind of a practice, my NVC, nonviolent communication practices. So
Got
it wasn't
you.
as heavy on the theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so did he at any point mention imagining yourself as a net?
No.
Like, and just the point of that being to try to like get into an effective practice of letting shit just like not taking anything personal. Yeah, just like letting it pass through you and just only catching what you want to catch.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, he just fucking dropped that bomb on us on my last class, and I've been thinking about it. I've been meaning to put it into my notes so I can visualize,
Yes.
like almost like a meta practice, like visualize myself as a net throughout the day.
That's
And just get into
really
that habit.
has a lot of use. Thank
Yeah,
you.
hell yeah. And then another thing I've been doing is I mentioned like the importance of touch lately in my life. Something I've been doing is like literally just sitting formally and visualizing me like for a couple of like maybe like 30 seconds at a time when I interact, visualizing me interacting with either my mom, dad, easier examples, or more difficult examples like a stranger, and just like
Yeah.
interacting with them via touch, and because it's something I want to get more comfortable with, because I notice myself really want to do it a lot, but there's still like just like fear and insecurity around it that I'm trying to like kind of untangle and push through. So to practice getting better at touch, I'm just diving into like visualization
Interesting.
for
Yeah.
for extended periods of time, because that's, from my understanding, that's creating the neurological pathways.
Yeah.
And maybe like running them a couple times.
Yeah.
So then like there's way more of a chance that I'll actually fucking do it once I'm out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I look forward to hearing how that goes. That's
Hell yeah.
interesting. The visualization is
It's
powerful.
Yeah, it is. God, I remember fucking just a couple of years ago, I was like, no, fuck mantras, fuck visualization. That's not real. But holy shit balls. It's legit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful.
It totally is. How you feel?
I feel good.
I do too.
I feel like we covered a lot of
I think we have too.
Lot
It
of
feels like a lot of
ground.
juice.
juiciness.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
I think there's probably always going to be more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
What time do you want to get rolling to? It's 5:09 right now.
Yeah. Probably soon.
You feel good about wrapping up? Do you have anything else you want to mention?
Not that comes to mind, but I know yeah. We'll just call it for now.
When
It
we're-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're in bed tonight, something will come
It's
up.
usually a 3 a.m.
Yeah. Cool, bro. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
This has been delightful.
Likewise, I am so grateful. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yep. I feel so grateful when we connect in this way. I'm filled with appreciation and joy, actually, for our connection and a shared reality. Kind of comparing notes. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, and whenever we are communicating, whether it's in silence, like with just a couple seconds of eye contact, or whether it's with words, I'm often greeted with a sense of, or a feeling of, like, I definitely am in a feeling of like mega appreciation, because I feel like I think you're a great mind for me to be in the presence of. Like it keeps me in a place, or it helps me stay in a place that I just want to be. Like I want to be surrounded by people like Stacey. And that totally meets my need for like valuable fucking human connection. So, thank you so much. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. What a cool podcast. I'm excited.
Thanks. It's fun.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
An hour and 20 minutes. That's solid, bro.
Dang,
Hell
that
yeah.
felt like flow because it
Because it was.
didn't feel that way. Yeah, I mean, it went.
At first, not always actually. At first, I had like some nerves about it. Just because like I don't want it to feel like an interview. You know, like I want to flow. And sometimes it just takes me a second personally to get into it. Were you nervous at all?
No.
Like you notice any tension within yourself?
I'd say like eager anticipation,
Oh, wait.
energy.